Hello! Thank you for being in a new video. This time I have with me the Galaxy M15. Let's unbox it. Let's get started. As usual, the Galaxy M series devices, I bring them a little late to the channel. At its time of launch, it cost 3,999 pesos. On screen, you see the reference price in dollars. But currently, it costs 2,999 pesos. So it's a very interesting alternative for those who are looking for a Galaxy and don't want to spend that much money. It's definitely going to have very attractive specifications. So join me in taking it out of its box. The first thing that we're going to find will be the paperwork of a lifetime and finally the cable, which is from USB-C to USB-C. Remember that Samsung is no longer including the charger on the vast majority of its devices, and this is no exception. So despite being a fairly inexpensive device, consider that you are going to have to invest another amount of money in acquiring the charger. It could be the original charger, or it could be chargers that support standard power delivery, and it's going to be fully compatible with Samsung's fast charging. That's all that's coming. Now we meet the cell phone. And we've already met directly with the cell phone that comes with a reflective plastic cover, but it comes with a little grid that looks interesting. It doesn't look so simple in this case, the design, even though Samsung still retains a minimalist trend. But in this case, it's not a completely flat cover in terms of aesthetics, although it does look and feel good to the touch. So let's get this device turned on. While we see that here we also get the Samsung Care Plus blurb included, and that's it. There's not much more content. Well, there is the key to remove the tray. And that's gonna be it. So let me save all this content. I'm going to be maybe an hour, so I'll get back to you when I'm done. And that's it. I've got the device set up here, so I'll tell you about its specifications. This device weighs 217 grams and is 9.3 millimeters thick. It's not that light and it's not that thin, but there's a lot of focus on the battery, which I'll tell you about in a moment. The screen is 6.5 inches in its diagonal, it's full HD plus resolution and Super AMOLED technology with 90 Hz. If you consider the price it has today, it definitely becomes a screen of the best of the range, since generally in this price range, many manufacturers include very simple LCD screens, but in this case we will find intense colors, high contrast. Brightness may not be as high as the high-end Samsung screens, but it is very good. In this case, it has only one speaker, so it integrates mono sound. We could not get so demanding because in the entry range there are few devices that integrate stereo sound, so in this sense it is on par. The front camera is 13 megapixels with f2.0 aperture and fixed focus. Here I have as always an example before taking the picture and after, so you can see how well it processes lights and shadows. It really looks like a very high quality selfie, considering the price. In fact, it also has a very good level of detail. Believe me, it takes better pictures with this front camera than many even more expensive devices. Samsung always does a very good job on cameras, and this one will be no exception. On the back, it offers us the 5 megapixel ultra-wide camera with f2.2 aperture and fixed focus, then the 50 megapixel main camera with f1.8 aperture and autofocus, although it does not have optical stabilization, and finally the 2 megapixel macro camera with f2.4 aperture. And again, here are some results. This is with the ultra-wide camera, which seems to me to have a little bit cooler performance than I would have liked. But for the price range, it's appreciated that it has ultra-wide camera. There are a lot of manufacturers these days that at this price don't give you that camera. Next, I have the main camera. Samsung generally has colors that are a little more saturated than they should be. So, it doesn't look as natural, but it does look somewhat spectacular because of the color saturation it achieves. I also took a picture with 2x zoom, where it doesn't quite maintain optical quality, but it still looks good quality. And the highest it reaches is 10x. And it definitely looks like a simple photograph. But for the price range, it's okay. This would be the 2x zoom. If you notice, it's also simple, but I would prefer to use the main camera with 2x zoom to have a better picture. Although in reality they could give very similar jobs, but in the video review we'll take a closer look at how they perform. Here I took a 50 megapixel photograph to see if it really reaches to take advantage of the full resolution of this sensor. And in this 50 megapixel mode, it does seem to do a good job. Perhaps it should also take advantage of this resolution in zoom, but in zoom it doesn't seem to take advantage of it as much. And finally, I took a portrait picture to see how it does. And in this regard, it delivers very well. Notice how it manages to keep objects in focus, blurs the background well. I think it is one of the best devices in terms of photography in this price range. Although in video it does not stand out so much since it can record up to full HD at 30 frames per second, both in the rear camera and the front camera. The battery is 6000 milliamps and supports 25 watts charging, although the charger must be purchased separately. But definitely that 6000 milliamp battery can be one of the most attractive points for some kind of user who is not much interested in other things and wants the maximum possible battery, because in this case you are going to find it and without sacrificing too much. It has a good screen, it has a good camera, although the performance is not going to be the top. Fresh from the factory, the device has 20.2 gigabytes used. It has 128 gigabytes in total storage, but 15% is already used from the factory, which is still not that high of a percentage compared to other devices. And remember that Samsung offers a lot of options at the software level that you could take advantage of. But here the bad news is that it has only 4 gigabytes of RAM. And in a Galaxy, 4 gigabytes is generally synonymous with seeing poor performance. Regardless of the processor it might have, the 4 gigabyte RAM comes to limit it a lot because of all the options Samsung usually integrates in its devices. It has RAM plus another 4 gigabytes through virtual RAM, but I honestly do not consider it useful or functional. And finally, the processor is the MediaTek Dimensity 6100 Plus. But if you want a clearer reference of the performance that this processor achieves, note that it has 617 points in single core and 1814 points in multi-core. Obviously, it is not an ultra-powerful processor, but at the current price range, it is definitely one of the most attractive options. And in Antutu it reached 365,559 points, confirming us that in graphical matters it will not be very powerful, but again in this price range I think it gets to compete very well. This device comes with Android 14 and has several promised updates. In fact, at this moment I already have an update available that I will install prior to the review, but it is also another of the highlights. So honestly, it seems to me, in first impressions, one of the most recommended devices in this price range. But remember that we will have the full video review available soon, so you can know it in much greater depth. For now, this has been all for this video. I hope you liked it. If you did, you know you can indicate it, and see you next time.